Los Angeles, I'm and most Hollywood nights. She goes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying,
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. It's time for another episode of Corner of the Galaxy from the Box, the show that gets you behind the scenes of the LA Galaxy and into the minds of soccer reporters and MLS experts. Your hosts for the day are Corner of the Galaxy's Josh Guesman and LA Times soccer reporter Kevin Baxter. Let's start the show.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy from the Box on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on a Monday, August 23rd. The LA Galaxy losing 2-1 on Friday night. Feels like it was forever ago, but on Friday night to the San Jose Earthquakes. We're going to talk a little bit about that loss, sort of where the LA Galaxy, certainly the reaction from Mr. Greg Vanney was one that we'll be paying attention to as well. And we've got a lot of stuff going on as the All-Star Game kicks off. We're going to tell you about Chicharito. We're going to tell you about status for Saturday. So we have a whole bunch of stuff still going there as we enter an El Trafico week as well. That's right, LA Galaxy, LAFC at Banc of California Stadium coming up on Saturday on Big Fox. So a lot of things to get to, a lot of stuff to talk about. To help me do that tonight, he's driving right now. He's via telephone. He may cut in and out, and we may even lose him towards the end here, but we have Kevin, the Panda Baxter. Kev, how's it going, buddy?
I am on the move. There was a picture someone posted the other day. They saw the Man City mobile, and I was streaking down the freeway, and they accused me of speeding, and I was. Well, today I'm talking on my cell phone to you as I'm driving, so that's two violations in the same week. But I am on the move. I've left South Bakersfield now. I'm on my way to a Players Association party or event associated with the All-Star Game. I am going to go through some hills here on the way from South Bakersfield, so you indeed, as you mentioned, you might lose me. But I don't know anybody with the Players Association. It seems like those are good people to know.
Yes.
So they invited me to this event, and I'm going to go to this event and see if I can make some contacts. And we will, if I drop the phone, that means a cop passed by. And
right.
Then if I cut out, that means I'm in the hills. And at some point I'm going to stop because I'm going to get to the party, I think, or event before this podcast is completed. So we'll do that. By the way, before I forget, I was out at the El Salvador-Costa Rica game, and I got to see People Gonzalez play. That was exciting for Costa Rica. But that was Saturday at Dignity Health Sports Park. A big crowd there. A lot of Galaxy fans on the Salvadoran side, mainly. You saw it. You did not go to the game, and you saw as many goals as I did, and I was at the game. But I just wanted to shout out to all those Galaxy fans that were out there. I went over and to their tailgate and visited with a few of them, and great time. Really, a lot of great people out there, and I appreciate your guys' hospitality.
That's awesome. No, that sounds like it was at least a fun time, and I know you said you got to talk to a lot of people, so that's always a good thing too. So glad that it worked out, and I'm glad that we could have you at least on the phone here for a little while as we go through. So normally what we would do is we would say, hey, let's go ahead and get through the San Jose Earthquakes and do things in chronological order, Kevin. But because we only have you for a limited amount of time, we're actually going to skip ahead to the news part, which we never, ever, 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 ever do first. We're going to do first this time. Does that sound like a good thing?
Yeah, well, it's because it's MLS All-Star Week, and so there's like news events created to make news. So we have one of those today. Okay,
good. All right, we will talk about that. Well, the big news today, and certainly something that came out this morning, is MLS kind of under. I mean, they tried to almost bury the announcement, Kevin. They didn't do a good job of it, but they tried to bury that announcement. And basically that Javier, Chicharito, Hernandez, and LAFC's Carlos Vela were both ruled out for the All-Star Game coming up on Wednesday night, which means they won't be taking part in the Skills Challenge. It means they won't be taking part in the All-Star Game itself, and that could have some other ramifications as well, right?
Well, it does. I mean, Chicharito and Vela were on all the posters. They were on all the advertisements. there are big posters right now. I was at Bank of California today for the press conference. There are huge posters and advertisements all over the place. Every single one of them has Chicharito and Vela. But neither the dog nor the pony for MLS's Dog and Pony Show will be playing in the game or taking part in the skills challenge. We kind of knew Chicharito maybe was not going to play. We sort of had the suspicion with the calf injury, how long it's taken him to come back, that the Galaxy probably would not want to risk having him participate in these events. Dennis DeClosa told me so much this morning before MLS made the announcement. But here's the big thing. I talked to an MLS spokeswoman at the event today. None of the releases said anything about what happens going forward. And there is the El Trafico this weekend at Bank of California. It's on Big Fox, nationally televised. This is another MLS Dog and Pony show, and both Dog and Pony will be out of that one as well. MLS is going to stick to their guns. They're going to use the Zlatan rule, which, if you remember, when Zlatan decided not to go to Atlanta and play in a meaningless exhibition game on turf a couple years ago, MLS said, if you did not participate in the All-Star Game, you miss your club's next regular season game. The next regular season game is El Trafico on Saturday. So both Chicharito and Vela will not be able to dress for El Trafico. It's a big double whammy for MLS. They lose their two marquee guys from the first Liga MX MLS All-Star Game, and these were the two people they wanted out there. They wanted people in Mexico to watch the game, to see Chicharito play against Guillermo Ochoa and some of these other guys. That's not going to happen, and then Chicharito's not going to play against Vela in El Trafico. So big double whammy for MLS. They kind of outsmarted themselves twice.
Kevin, can I say, and obviously I believe exactly what you're saying, but can I say even I find it hard to believe that MLS is this stupid whenever it comes to, making this decision. It's easy to sort of sit there and say, listen, Chicharito's been injured for a long time. Carlos Vela came out in the 15th minute of his game. He's obviously injured. All these things are real, and we know the difference between real injuries and fake injuries, and we should be able to adapt it. This seems like they're trying to be black and white when really they needed to be a little shades of gray here, and they're going to shoot themselves in the foot. They shot themselves in the foot once, and now it feels like they're going to shoot the other foot as they go through Saturday as well.
Well, the Zlatan thing was different. Zlatan said, I am not going to play in an exhibition on turf. I'm not going across the country to do that. He was openly defining the rules, and I get it. Okay, that is a unusual case, and I think he's probably, if MLS wants to make this All-Star Game be a big deal. Now, baseball, basketball, football, no other league does that. It's an exhibition, and they recognize that as an exhibition, and a lot of guys want the time off. So MLS says no. The reason here, what this is all about is MLS used to have its big sponsor parties, its kind of Super Bowl event for all of its sponsors. They used to have that at MLS Cup when MLS Cup was at a neutral site because they had months to plan for that event. Then when MLS correctly decided MLS Cup would go to the team with the best regular season record, well, they didn't have time to activate all their sponsors' events. So all those things moved to the middle of the season, to the All-Star Game. Liga MX, all 18 team owners, all 18 general managers, everyone's here for this thing. A lot of the MLS people are here as well. This is where the sponsors come. This is where they have the wine and dine them. I'm going to a union event tonight. So this is important for MLS, and so they've decided that all their stars have to be here. That's ridiculous. So you're right. They did, and you and I were talking before the show. I didn't expect them to go through with this. When I saw that two New England players, that Bruce Arena had pulled two of his starters from New England out of the All-Star Game as well, that to me, nobody knows the MLS rules better than Bruce Arena. And when Bruce Arena pulled his guys, I thought, he found the loophole. He's going to get around this one-game suspension. He's going to make sure his guys play next weekend. Well, and that's why I went to an MLS spokesperson and said, are Vela and Chicharito out? And she said yes. I'm kind of with you, though. I'm not convinced that MLS isn't going to try to find some way around this,
right?
And allow these guys to play. The Vela, again, we knew Chicharito was probably out. The Vela thing was unfortunate. He's had this quadriceps problem since the first game, and then he went and played on turf in Vancouver, and it just blew up on him. But, yeah, you're right. I mean, MLS, just the two guys they wanted in this game are out with injury. There's nothing you can do about that. But then they're coming back with a nationally televised game, and they've got to say, hey, folks, another marquee event, we don't have our marquee players.
Yeah, it makes no sense. You're on Big Fox, right? You're on national television, basic over the air, a broadcast with Fox. You have this huge audience that should be tuning in for one of MLS's marquee games, right? And we all agree that El Trafico is one of the biggest games of the year for Major League Soccer, if not the biggest game of the year for Major League Soccer. It's a huge deal. You could be getting somebody like Chicharito back, Kevin. It may have been, and Greg Vanney was on the fence about it. We don't know if he would come back, but it was close. And you could have this moment in El Trafico where the cameras pan to the bench, Chicharito comes off the bench, and he's going to play the last 15 minutes with a tie game and possibility of winning everything. You have all this drama that you could build in by just being smart. Again, both of these players are not trying to circumvent the rules, Kevin. Both these players, at least with Vela and Chicharito, they're injured. I can't speak for New England and Bruce Arena and what they're doing over there, but Chicharito has been injured for, 11 or 12 games now. This is nothing new, and everybody knows it, and he's just on the... You could have this... It's almost like whenever Zlatan came off the bench, right? You could have that moment, and MLS has decided, you know what? Nah, we don't need that moment, apparently. We're already having to tuck our tail between our legs because the guys who we have on every single poster both got injured, and neither one of them are at Bank of California Stadium to play against the Liga MX All-Stars. That's not a thing that happens anymore, and now we're going to shoot ourselves in the foot again by saying, oh, you know what? Chicharito can't even play. Even if he was able to play, he can't play. It seems totally short-sighted to me.
And you know what? Teams and players are going to say in the future, they're going to say, hey, fans, please don't elect me to the All-Star Game. Don't pick me for the All-Star Game because I might be injured or I might not be able to go or I have to stay home, and then you're going to cost your team a game in the standings because I can't play in the next game. Players are not going to want to go under these circumstances. It's not that big an honor. And remember, like the New England players, DC United, all those guys, they're coming across the country and they got to go back, and some of them play on Friday.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's as we say, it's an exhibition game. We always talked about mid-season friendlies, Kevin, sort of along the same lines with some of this stuff, which is this is a mid-season friendly for some of these guys. I will say this, that if MLS is serious about the All-Star Game and they want guys to show up and play during these All-Star events, then start pushing some serious cash to be there, and the guys will find it within them to make it. I don't mean to be greedy, and I don't want to be, sort of just simple on this, but bottom line is, if a guy's going to make, $100,000 because he's showing up to the All-Star Game, then all of a sudden that means a lot, and you can even do stuff, and like somebody said in our chat room, Galaxy Goal says, even give the players double the money to those who donate their All-Star Game earnings to charity. That, like, you could do a whole bunch of things that would turn out good, but right now is everybody doesn't want to play in some of these exhibition games, and you have a guy who's on just the edge of coming back with Chicharito, and you're going to rule him out for one of the big... Listen, I don't think it's that important to the LA Galaxy overall on what happens on Saturday. I think the Galaxy will have plenty of healthy bodies to play in, but you can't tell me the storyline wouldn't be huge, Kevin, if Chicharito is sitting there on the bench whenever this game goes into the last 20 minutes or so, and there's a possibility he could be coming in. That will keep people watching that game.
Well, a couple of things. I want to get to what we talked about before, which is who Greg Vanney will have available. But on the thought that you had, again, some players have to go back and play. They have to go cross country and play on Friday after playing the All-Star Game Wednesday. Now, yes, they're not going to run around for 90 minutes, and I think it's going to be a tame game. There's not going to be a lot of physical tackles. Guys aren't going to play 90 minutes probably, et cetera, et cetera. But still, the cross country travel. I mean, just imagine you fly cross country on Monday, you go back on Friday, and you run around a little bit in between. You're going to be tired. But, Sebastian Lletget did not make the team. He should have made the team, but he didn't. But imagine guys in his position just for a moment. Sebastian Lletget is going to probably make the U.S. national team for this first set of World Cup qualifiers. You would have a situation where Sebastian Lletget played Friday. He's got to play in the All-Star Game Wednesday. He's got to do the Skills Challenge Tuesday. He's got to play in El Trafico on Saturday. Then he's got to fly off and play 3 World Cup qualifiers in 8 days. And then he's got to return to the Galaxy 3 days later to resume the regular season. That's just too much. And because the LAFC coaching staff is coaching the MLS All-Stars, I got a chance to talk to a lot of their guys about this. And to a person, they all are I wouldn't want to say they're angry, but they don't embrace the All-Star Game either. It's like, we should have this at the beginning of the season, but then guys aren't in shape. We should have it at the end of the season, but then guys really don't care. But we have it in the middle of the season. You got guys hurt. You got guys that could get hurt. You got guys traveling, they're exhausted. There's no break. Maybe there should be a longer break, but they can't do that now because they have an international coming up in September. They have another international break in October. They have an international break in November. There's fixture congestion. So it's really a bad thing all the way around. But what I wanted to talk about with the players is, so the Galaxy have played Friday. They played Friday, the third game in 7 days. Then they have a full week off. They play El Trafico. Then they have 2 more weeks off after that. And Greg Vanney's got a couple of guys with knocks. We know Chicharito is out.
Right.
MLS made that decision for Greg Vanney. He's out. But, Sega has been dealing with some things, a little knock. Jorge Villafani's been out a couple of games with a knock. A few guys banged up. Jonathan Dos Santos, we saw him limping around a little bit. Greg Vanney has a chance now. I know he wants the points against LAFC, and he should go after them. But if he manages the squad correctly, you have a chance now to get Jorge Villafani 3 full weeks off in the middle of the season. You can get Sega Koulibaly 3 full weeks off. You can get Jonathan Dos Santos. He's not called up by Mexico. He can get a long break. This could be a real key game, this El Trafico coming up. If Greg Vanney can get through that game without extending some of these injured players and without not having them aggravate anything, these guys could be completely healthy or close to as healthy as they've been all season, coming back on September 11th for the playoff drive. A lot of games in a short amount of time with those international breaks, a lot of congestion, fixture congestion. This could be a part where Greg Vanney can get his guys healthy, completely healthy, if he can manage to get through this LAFC game without extending his guys too much.
Yeah, it's certainly one of those things. And I think there's more than enough healthy bodies for him to be able to do that. Nico Hamalainen has been taking a lot of Villafaña's time. Koulibaly seems like he's okay. I imagine that they're not going to rotate anymore, and I think maybe Greg Vanney learned a lesson about his rotation against the San Jose game. I can dive into that a little bit as well. But you're right, and this is one of the reasons that Greg Vanney was shouting, we have 3 weeks to fix this, Kevin, right? He was talking about the defense after the game. We have 3 weeks, and he had to sort of backtrack on it, which was sort of like, obviously we want to get a result and a response coming up on Saturday. He goes, but realistically, we have 3 weeks to fix this, and this is that 3 weeks we're talking about. This is the 3 weeks of training and a whole bunch of other things that the Galaxy will actually be able to do, because I don't know if people know this. I imagine that they do, but the Galaxy haven't done any training recently, all right? And that's because with a schedule that involves, 3 games in 7 days, that means that you don't get any training. It's walkthroughs, it's recoveries, but there's no actual training or time to work on things. It's mostly just getting ready for the next game and going from there. So that's why Vanney was very focused on the 3 weeks after the San Jose game and talking about how the defense needed to be fixed and they had 3 weeks to do it. This is the 3 weeks that he's talking about. It's this break. After the LAFC game, the LA Galaxy don't play again until 9/11. That's whenever they travel to Colorado for an afternoon game there. So a whole bunch of stuff coming up for the Galaxy on that side. I just think... looking at this All-Star game, I don't have a problem with the All-Star game overall. I just think an All-Star game this year, Kevin, in this type of condensed schedules, you have a bunch of these teams. In fact, most teams played 3 games in 7 or 8 days last week. And then you're throwing in another midweek game for some of these guys. There comes a point where muscles break and people break down. And I have a feeling we're going to see some of that in the All-Star game.
Well, tickets for the All-Star game were going for over $200. And some people thought that was a little bit of a bargain to see Chicharito and Vela, the former Mexican national team players, go against Guillermo Ochoa, their former national team teammates, some of these other guys, and others. There was a little bit of an interesting storyline to there. But now that it's going to be Christian Roldan and Raul Ruiz-Diaz against Mexico, not the same thing. But by the way, you were talking about Greg Vanney's kind of diatribe, whatever you want to call it, after the San Jose game. He was very angry and was really attacking the way his team played defensively. He said a lot of stuff that I guess I didn't know and never thought of, but he talked about some statistic that he had that showed that the Galaxy begin their offensive build-up deeper in their defensive end than any team in MLS. And he talked about how when you don't play defense, when you allow teams to come deep into your own end and before you recover the ball, then you have 85 or 90 yards to go to get into an attacking position. And it's very difficult, unless it's a counterattack or breakaway, it's very difficult to dribble 90 yards up the field against an MLS team and go all the way through. It makes total sense. It's super obvious. I just never thought about it, that the way you play defense, if you play lazy on defense and let the team get all the way to your back line, that hurts your offense because you have so much further to go.
Yeah, and by the way, he was talking a lot about transitions in there too, right? It's transition. He said basically the Galaxy are skipping a whole very important part to the game, which is, the transition game and being able to transition quickly, and that they don't do that. And by the way, not a statistic, an analytic that he's talking about there, right? This is something that is not anything we have heard out of a Galaxy coach's mouth. I don't know ever. Mostly because whenever Bruce Arena was around, you would talk about analytics and he would yell at you. Kurt Onalfo never stuck around long enough probably to talk about analytics. I don't think Dom Kinnear did. I don't think Siggy Schmidt did. And I know Guillermo Barros-Schelotto never talked about any analytics. So to understand that the LA Galaxy are even taking into account an analytic for a team. And not only that, Kevin, but I thought it was really interesting because he reiterated that twice, right? He didn't just talk about our team starts, deeper, our attacks start deeper than any other team in MLS. And then somebody said, but what about the offense? He goes, I just told you this stat. He goes, this stat is a major reason for the offensive part too, right? And so the fact that he is able to go in and look at those analytics and be able to do things like that already tells me that this is a guy who is not more advanced, but just paying very, very close attention to everything the Galaxy are doing right now. On, off the field, everything. Greg Vanney is all up in their business, and I don't, I'm sure that there was a honeymoon period with Greg Vanney, right? He was getting ready with everybody. He was giving people space and time to sort of figure some things out. I think that honeymoon period is probably over now. At least it feels that way, Kevin.
Well, and you talk about the 3 weeks. Greg talked about the 3 weeks. Remember, we've used the stat a million times. 17 players have made their Galaxy debut. It means 17 players new to Greg Vanney, new to the Galaxy this season. A couple of those guys, Dejan and Nico and a few others have come in during this crowded summer fixture schedule. And as you mentioned, they haven't been on the field training. That means these guys have not got a chance to really learn and really study maybe the way that Greg Vanney wants them to play and the way their teammates play. What you do on the training field when you rehearse some of this stuff as opposed to what you do in the game is totally different. I think that 3 weeks is probably going to be very valuable for some of these guys who are newer to the team and are still trying to figure out what exactly Greg Vanney wants them to do.
Very interesting. I want to shift gears for you, and I didn't even tell you we were going to talk about this, but I imagine that you are more. Yeah, don't worry. You're more than qualified to talk about this particular thing. Jaime Ojeda was reporting on Twitter and sort of came up with something interesting. I saw it on Reddit. I picked it up. But basically, this reporter's saying, I'm hearing that the combined value of the regional TV package of MLS can be around $75+ million a year from 2023. Basically, that the league, MLS, wants to put your regional games, right? So not the nationally televised games, but the regional games that don't get that national televised pickup on like an ESPN Plus platform or a Paramount Plus platform. We've talked about this. And the big deal here would be that there would be no market blackouts and sort of the regional TV model would like go poof in a matter of seconds, Kevin. Now, I saw a lot of people looking at this and saying, well, that, the current MLS deal is $90 million. And so this is less than that. So what? Everybody's supposed to take a haircut and how things going? If I read this correct and I look at everything, Kevin, there's a national television, the national TV contract, which is the $90 million. This is on top of that. This is separate from that contract. So yes, they will be negotiating probably those things combined in some parts in some ways. But basically, you're looking at $75 million. Now, if you take $75 million, Kevin, and you divide it by the 27 teams that are out there right now, that's $2.77 million per team. All right. And if you're talking about the LA Galaxy, we know they're making around $5.5 million a year off their Spectrum deal. So if you're taking the 5.5 and basically you're chopping that in half, right? You're saying that the Galaxy would only get $2.7 million. I look at this, Kevin, and I say the LA Galaxy are never, ever getting another contract worth $5.5 million for their regional broadcast, at least not anytime soon, right? And so the $2.7 million is not a horrible place to sort of land if you're the LA Galaxy, and I would imagine that that's a considerable increase for some other teams that are currently maybe even paying to have some of their games broadcast on regional networks.
Yeah, but it's not enough. The TV money is what's driving global soccer everywhere. The MLS needs a much more robust deal than the 90 million nationally, and then for these local broadcasts as well. I think you're going to see a lot of this stuff go streaming. And I'm not sure what that's going to do to the financial side of it, but you've seen ESPN Plus pick up the Bundesliga. The French league now is streaming. Even a lot of the EPL games now are on Peacock. So, and I've been told by TV people that the reason they're doing that is that's where the soccer viewers are. Guys like me, who are used to regular TV, we're not soccer viewers by and large. It's the 18 to 34, 18 to 44. And those people are very comfortable. My son's 27. He's never had a TV. He watches everything streaming.
Right.
And so that's where soccer is going. And whether there's money there or not, I don't know. But in talking to a lot of Liga MX people this week around the All-Star Game, and in looking at why MLS really wants to have sort of this partnership and even perhaps someday a merger with Liga MX, it's all because of TV. And MLS is not getting, the robust TV deals that other leagues are getting. The viewers in the U.S. are watching Liga MX. Liga MX games get way more viewers than even the best MLS games. So MLS is trying to push in and associate with Liga MX to drive some of those TV ratings. You may see things in the future where MLS is going to play Liga MX in more games than just the Leagues Cup and some of these other things, maybe even some regular season games. I'm not sure how that would work, but the idea to get MLS teams in front of Liga MX viewers and drive those ratings up so they can drive the TV money up. And everything in that realm is pointing to 2026. The synergy with Mexico and the U.S. leading up into the World Cup that the two nations will share with Canada. TV money is the future. MLS, as a league, has never made a profit. They need that TV money in order to turn that around. I'm just not sure that the kind of dollars you're talking about is going to do it. It may be a stopgap. It may get them through the next TV deal, but I look for that one not to be a 5-year deal. I look for that to be one that's going to stop right around 2026 when they're able to point to the World Cup and say, look how many people watch soccer, give us more money.
Yeah, I mean, listen, again, there's national TV contract that is in the 90 million, and certainly, I think everybody is hopeful right now that that's going to go up, right? And so, everybody's saying, okay, maybe it doesn't skyrocket, Kevin. Maybe it goes up into the, $110 million. But like you said, maybe they should do a shorter term, sort of based off of the World Cup and different things like that. I'm telling you right now, if you gave every team $2.7 million for their TV, that several teams would be making twice or 3 times as much as they're making off television contracts right now.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that, but it's still, how those teams pay their bills. Maybe those are the teams that are underwater. You got to, at Charlotte, paying $325 million to join the league, and you tell them they're going to get 2.5 for their local TV deal. I don't think they'll probably take it, but I don't think they're going to be happy with it.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm sorry, but where have you seen? I mean, you look at the LA Galaxy. We know they have one of the richest TV contracts in Major League Soccer.
The richest in league history.
So $5.5 million is the high bar, and that we know that high bar is never being reached again here in LA, at least not for the Galaxy and not right now, right? That's almost a given. We've seen that, LAFC has had some issues in terms of finding somebody to broadcast their games and getting that deal done. The LA Galaxy are coming up at the end of their contract with, Time Warner, which is now Spectrum. So that's going to go. I mean, all of this stuff leads into a streaming platform like ESPN Plus, like Paramount Plus, like all these other ones that I think everybody's subscribed to because we're all like watching soccer from all over the world. And that includes, all of the out of market games in Major League Soccer. If you're going to increase the amount of money most teams get, I think everybody's going to be pretty happy with that. I'm not saying that that's a great 10-year deal, but I'm saying in the short term that you're giving people more money than they would be getting normally. That's a win. That's a win. That's a win for teams if you're getting more money than you would normally be getting on a TV contract.
It's interesting you mentioned kind of in passing, and you didn't really elaborate much on it, that some teams may be paying for their games to be broadcast. I know that Chivas USA did that in its end days, and I know that's a sad chapter in MLS history, but they paid for their games to be broadcast on TV. They paid for their games to be broadcast on the radio, and they were able to sell advertising, whatever they could, to sort of recoup some of that. But I think you're probably right. I think there probably are some teams in some markets that don't get any TV revenue or very little, whatever they can sell, whatever ads they can sell.
Yeah, I mean,
those would be the teams that would be extremely happy with a deal like that.
Again, you're trying to find a one shoe fits all, right? You're like, oh, this is going to fit everybody, and I think you look at the Galaxy, they're going to have to take a haircut, but I think they were expecting to take a haircut anyway, so I'm not really sure that's a huge deal. What is different here though is if it goes this way, Kevin, no longer will you and I have to say, oh well, you can't watch it because it's blacked out. That doesn't happen. And so that sounds like if you're eventually moving to that model, I think everybody's a lot happier. And, all the people, listen, I like all the people who work for Spectrum, and I think they do, as good a job as they will allow with the money that they get, right? I mean, basically that's all bare bones stuff anymore. For what Spectrum does. And before there was studio shows and all sorts of other things. And that went away whenever they realized that the viewership wasn't there and therefore, the advertising opportunities of the whole deal. So that has been a very bad deal for Spectrum, a very good deal for the LA Galaxy. We've talked about that many times. But having said that, it's time for that to go away. Lots of people are very upset with Spectrum. You can't watch things when you want to, so they could just, go away. And so whenever you look at what this could possibly be progressing to, I think that they're going to, as a league, that they're headed in the right direction. The money may not be there right now, but it's going to be there. It's going to get better. And I think that if you're headed in this general direction where you get to package everything together, there's lots of things I think we've talked about on the show, which is how do you even do that, right? Because you still need local teams to broadcast the games. You still need local production crews. You need a lot of things that have to happen in order to do all this stuff. And I don't know who pays for that and how that works, but that seems to be sort of where we're headed here pretty quickly, is that everything will be together. There will be no blackouts. Wherever you are in the United States, you will be able to watch the LA Galaxy on your phone, on your computer, on your smart TV, all sorts of things like that. So for me, that's where it sort of goes. I would also like to point out that one of the reasons the LA Galaxy have a YouTube radio station, Kevin, is because in order to be on radio or on anywhere else, you have to pay a significant amount of money for them to do that, and they didn't want to do that. So they just put it up on YouTube, and therefore people can stream that audio and get that audio whenever they want it, and it's basically a much lower cost to produce those things than if it was actually broadcast over terrestrial radio.
Well, a couple of things about what you talked about is that when Spectrum signed that deal, which was $55 million for 10 years. That was just shortly after they had started to broadcast the Lakers. Remember, they signed that multi-billion-dollar deal with the Lakers. The deal was they needed summer programming when the Lakers weren't playing. And they thought, sports was relatively cheap. They thought there'd be an audience. They didn't think they were going to make a killing, but they thought they could recoup their money. So they did the studio shows, which were really good. I thought they had they had Spectrum in Espanol. They did, Galaxy stuff in Espanol. They did games. They did, the shoulder programming in Spanish. They got their hats handed to them. They got no viewers at all, period. I mean, the ratings were to get any kind of ratings at all, I think you have to have like 100,000 viewers or something. They got 0.00. They got no ratings at all.
Right.
So it just didn't work out, and they lost a ton of money. And this is why LAFC was not able to get a partner. They had to go to YouTube at first, and now they're on KCOP. The only people that are going to be unhappy with this new streaming thing is me, because I'm going to need tech support to figure out how to get this app on my phone and how to log onto my computer and get that stuff.
Oh my God. You're so old.
You're gonna have to help me. I am. Get off my lawn, you kids.
You act like you're 70, and you're barely 10 years older than me, and you're like, I don't know how to do any of this stuff. I mean, Larry is almost 70, and occasionally he'll ask me for help on some things. You're worse than he is.
I'm always asking you for help.
I know. I feel like I'm the COG tech support guy sometimes. That's okay.
My son worked at an Apple store for a while, which was awesome because now he knows how all the Apple stuff works.
So that,
he probably did anyways, but now I can actually call him and say, hey, how does this app work? What do I do here?
That's
it works.
That's it. Luckily for you, this will be easy. So the streaming stuff, we'll see where that ends up going. But it's one of those things we focus on this program, is talking about the TV money, talking about where the LA Galaxy can get some things, and how they get their money and how they make money. And we talk about season tickets. And most of the time, this is why whenever you look at the $5.5 million the Galaxy get out of Spectrum, this is why they're still dependent on walk-ups and on season tickets and on people being in their seats and buying game tickets. That's one of the reasons reasons the LA Galaxy, really focus on this is because there's not a ton. They're not getting $25 million a year out of their TV contract, right? And so that's, you sort of have to look at that whenever all of these things come together, because eventually it comes down to Uncle Phil Anschutz, and how much money he wants to spend, knowing that, he's not bringing in a whole bunch of money. Now, we could certainly talk about the value of franchises and how they've been skyrocketing, and how any losses any of these guys say, that they get all the time has pretty much been erased by the overall market value of a club, especially like the LA Galaxy, in the market. If you were to sell them, how much money could you sell them for? And so, they do valuations for those every year. 700 million, 750, 800 million, 900 million. I forget who the latest person did the valuations and where the LA Galaxy sit, but that's why we look at these things and say, okay, there's more to this, but we want you to have the full picture on that as well. So
there's a grain of salt to all of that. And Chris Klein told me this when we were on the road with the Galaxy, was last year, I guess.
It was like 2 years ago.
Yeah, the opener, whatever. The one in Houston, Chicharito's first game. And the Forbes list had just come out and had all these rankings of how much the teams were worth. And Chris Klein said, do you buy that stuff? And I go, well, it's Forbes. It looks good. And he said, look at, I think it was Cincinnati was the team. I think that was the one Meg Whitman or someone had just bought a share of. And they spent like $500 million for like a quarter share. Mm-hmm. And the club was, by Forbes, was ranked like, the figures are wrong. I'm just giving you an idea of the conversation. The figures for that Forbes ranked was just a few ticks above what Meg Whitman had paid for a quarter share. And Chris Klein says, if it's a quarter share, it should be 4 times what she paid. And yet Forbes is valuing the team essentially what she paid. And right. She paid for 1/4 of the team. So, MLS loves this stuff. The more muddy the water can get, the less we know about what teams are worth and how much they're paying for players, the better for MLS. But at some point, they're going to have to open their books to somebody. We know the league continues to lose money. It's just, I wish they'd be more transparent, because it'd be great to know how much salary cap space the Galaxy have, and how much the league is losing, or how much the league is winning, and how big of a deal is this All-Star Game. Hey, if MLS wants to make the case that all the sponsor activity around this All-Star Game, is worth 1/10 of their revenue, maybe people will feel different about it. But right now, it just looks like a meaningless exhibition that that the league feels is important and nobody else does.
Yep, absolutely. How are you doing on timing there? Or do you need to go?
I am trying to find the event. I'm just about there. I'm told it's here on San Pedro Street, which, if you ever have a chance to drive down San Pedro Street in downtown LA at night, please never do it. But I think I am near to where I'm supposed to be.
Okay, well, why don't we let you go, because I can transition into talking about San Jose. We will thank you for your input. You go find your place. You go get there. You go smoosh and make your contacts with the MLS Players Association. All right.
I will do that. Thank you.
All right, Kev. Thanks as always, and don't worry, I'll tell everybody where they can find you at the end. So drive safe. All right, Kev. Thanks, buddy.
Bye-bye.
All right, there goes Mr. Kevin Baxter. Glad we could have him on for a little bit at least. A lot of stuff I think that was important, and Kevin and I were trying to figure out how to do this, and obviously Kevin wanted to cover that event. He was trying to get me to do it, and he was like, hey, let's do the podcast from the event. And we're like, this goes back to Kevin being the dinosaur. Kevin, how do you suppose we do a live podcast from a party, which I imagine will be like, people schmoozing, talking, loud. I mean, generally loud, the whole deal. How do you suppose that works? He's like, I don't know. And I'm saying, okay, we won't do it. We won't do it. How about we just get you on the phone while you're driving, and then we could go ahead and do that. So that's where we're at. Let's see. I could go through a whole bunch of different things. Let's see. I don't know. Kevin's I would say that Kevin's actually trying to call me back, but most of that time it just means that he's he hit buttons he wasn't supposed to hit. So we will let him be as we go forward. I wanted to get to some of the San Jose game. I think the San Jose game is important to sort of check. I think it's important to take a look at. I think that if you thought the LA Galaxy, didn't have any problems, that the San Jose game probably exposed those problems, and more or less the Colorado game as well. For some reason was getting a lot of flack on social media saying that I said that the Galaxy were tired, and I have never once in the Colorado game or the San Jose game said the Galaxy are tired, because if you look at the LA Galaxy coming into this, they were on the same schedule as everybody else, but they were at home. Okay. And because they were at home, they should have had the advantage. They had the advantage against Colorado. All right. And they certainly had the advantage against San Jose. San Jose was playing its third game of 3, 2 at home and then 1 on the road. Yes, it's a short trip. It doesn't matter. If you get on a plane, you travel, you lose that advantage. All right. If you look at Colorado, they played Saturday at Houston and then Tuesday at LA. Tell me how a team that plays 2 road games back to back comes in, or excuse me, their second of 2 games, both of which were on the road. They come into LA and they beat the Galaxy so easily, right? And by the way, if you remember, Colorado sat some starters, right? That wasn't even their A+ team. So you can look at that and say, okay, that was a little bit of a warning sign there too. We talked that the LA Galaxy would have a reaction against this team, against the San Jose team. We said, it's a bit of a rivalry, even though I argued against that. And guess what? I was pretty right. Galaxy didn't treat it as a rivalry, did they? Looking at all these things and looking at what, Vanney did, and I think maybe there's some blame there, but certainly looking at what Vanney said afterwards, you look at the San Jose game and say this was a horrible performance. It should have been. Greg Vanney called it pedestrian for the first 60 minutes. Pedestrian. It looked like the LA Galaxy didn't really want to be there. It looked like maybe they wanted to do something else. We had a starting lineup that included Dejan Joveljic, I should say, Efrain Alvarez out on the right side, Kevin Cabral on the left side. Then in the middle, you had Sebastian Lletget, Raveloson, Kleshchin, Hämäläinen on the back line, Depew on the back line in place of Williams. We'll talk about that here in a second. Koulibaly in defense, and then Julian Araujo on the right-hand side, Jonathan Bond back in goalkeeper. By the way, for everybody who wanted to say that there was goalkeeping controversy, I hope Jonathan Bond shut you up pretty fast. None of those goals were Jonathan Bond's fault. In fact, the dude stood on his head, made 2. He technically made, I think, 4 saves in 4 minutes. They were just on either side at halftime for the Galaxy. 2 double saves on both sides of that. If you look at the expected goals in this game, it really wasn't even that close. The game flow, by the way, has this very close. The actual expected goals, at least on the MLS site and what they were looking at, shows San Jose at 2.5, the LA Galaxy at 1. I think it's generous to give the LA Galaxy 1. By the way, the goal that they scored on Victor Vasquez, hooking in a corner kick, I guess it's an Olympico. I guess we're going to call it that. We're still not 100% sure if anybody touched it beforehand. In fact, it was sort of ruled as an own goal initially, and then Victor Vasquez was given it whenever I think they said, maybe it didn't have all that much into it, so we'll go ahead and give the benefit of the doubt to Victor Vasquez. But when you look at this lineup, certainly there's some rotation here, and I think Greg Vanney is allowed to rotate. I think, quite honestly, the third game of 3, you should rotate. But Williams on the bench, I think, was his big mistake. Vasquez not starting this game, yeah, that's fine. Jonathan Dos Santos coming in later in this game, that's fine, because you expected a second half to be able to be played, sort of on their terms, with Grandsir on the bench as well. So you had some really good game-changing subs that you could bring into this lineup. The problem was that the guys who were started this game played 60 minutes of snooze fest soccer. The only thing it wasn't not exciting, because San Jose was just constantly pressing the LA Galaxy for that first 60 minutes. And so, I don't know that you can look out here and say anybody had a good game. Julian Araujo got torched in this game fairly early, fairly often. He wasn't in position on the first goal, although I see plenty of people trying to blame Julian Araujo when Greg Vanney certainly wants him to get up the line, and Efrain Alvarez knows that he's going to have to cover some ground. Efrain Alvarez was back and covering on that first San Jose goal. He was back there. He didn't have to run a million yards. He was back there. He was set, and then he decided to not mark anybody. And yes, Efrain Alvarez is a midfielder. Yes, he rarely plays defense, but at the same time, he's a professional soccer player. He probably should, try to mark somebody. Koulibaly got pulled into the center. Nick Depew starting, certainly, I think, unhinged Koulibaly a little bit. I think that Depew can play with Williams. I think that Koulibaly can play with Williams, but I think if you're going to take Williams out of this, and maybe there was a more reason than just rotation, maybe if there was something that you could see, maybe he had just a little bit of a knock, maybe they were worried about something, maybe blah, blah, blah. The whole deal with again, if any of you watched Ted Lasso, you had Roy Kent talking about how, you're not in the locker room with these guys. You can't look them in the eyes. You can't do this stuff that you see. Perhaps there's more to the Williams story than we know. I'll tell you one thing. If you look on this, whose name you don't see on any of the lineup cards is Dan Steres. He's not on the bench. He's not on the starting lineup. He's nowhere to be found. I asked the LA Galaxy. They told me it was a coach's decision. I don't know that I believed them. So I did some more digging. It is a coach's decision. So whatever Dan Steres did, or whatever the coaching staff thinks they're doing right now, Dan Steres isn't in that. But if I'm a betting man, you put Dan Steres back there with Koulibaly, I think you get a better play out of him. I think Nick DePuy has been good at times in relief of Williams or Koulibaly, as we've seen him sort of play. And I thought that whenever Koulibaly looked like maybe he got that concussion, that Nick came in and played fairly well. But again, next to Williams, when you sit Williams, then you don't get that same sort of bite back there. And I think that they were disjointed. I didn't like the connection, and you saw on the first goal, DePuy lets two players sort of slip in between them. Koulibaly sees the two players, runs into the center. Araujo's working back, but apparently was working on counter press and didn't counter press hard enough, and therefore was late behind the play. Alvarez gets back and decides to do nothing. Wide open header for Abobase, and that's the first goal. And by the way, San Jose could have scored 3 or 4 goals before that. So, and by the way, I want to make this very clear. Williams was not benched. He was rotated. All right. There was no punishment in this. There was Greg Vanney saying, hey, this is a guy I need to give a little bit of a rest to. And by the way, he did this to many people, right? Again, Vasquez on the bench, Dos Santos on the bench, Grandsir on the bench. We told you, I think, earlier on that Grandsir might be getting a rest in this game because we expected him to get a rest in the previous game, and then Cabral came out and wasn't able to play, and so then Grandsir had to go in. And so with Cabral back, able to play, then Grandsir gets his little bit of a rest. And he is the guy you're going to need to get rest from, right? Because he is the LA Galaxy's Ramon Alessandrini right now, a guy who is giving 110% on the field. You're going to need to protect those guys. Super important you protect those guys, because those guys will run through walls, they'll get injured, they'll do all this stuff. And there is this stretch of games coming up for the LA Galaxy that is just the ugliest stretch of games you've ever seen. Now, we talked about the 3 weeks. We can talk about all that fun stuff as it goes. But whenever you look at this LA Galaxy game, I don't. Greg Vanney certainly sees something, and if you listen to his postgame, he says, we cheat on offense, we cheat on defense. He goes, our mindset is we love to play offense, right? But nobody wants to get back and play defense. And so these are the things that you're looking at whenever you're saying, okay, what did the Galaxy do right and what did the LA Galaxy do wrong? And so those are things to pay attention to. Vanney was. Vanney was a little upset. I can actually play you some of this. I think it's important that you hear this, and I'm sure you have heard it. If you go to cornerthegalaxy.com, you can watch the entire press conference. Lucky for me, I got the first question. I was hoping maybe I didn't, because I felt like this would be the time that Greg Vanney would get upset. This is Greg Vanney. By the way, people are calling him Vregani, right? If you watch Ted Lasso again, you'll get that reference. This is evil. Greg Vanney, whenever he's talking. This is about, I think, as mad as he gets, certainly with us. He's not angry at us, but he's certainly frustrated with the LA Galaxy.
I thought the first 60 minutes were pedestrian. It was slow. It was just blah. I think our defending in general is just not good enough. We give away too many chances. We give away too many goals. It's on me, and it's going to change in the next 3 weeks. We have 3 weeks until we play a game next week, which I want to see a reaction, but we have 3 weeks to get better defensively, because we can't keep conceding goals and chances at the rate we are, and it's a mentality. Our mentality is that we love to attack and we love to have the ball, but we cheat defensively and we rest and we don't concentrate and we don't do the little things that it takes to be a good defending team. We cheat them, and it's going to end. Our guys aren't going to be on the field. I've shared that with them, and it's going to end. Our mentality to defend has to change. We're going to be a good attacking team. I'm confident in that. I'm sure of it. As we get everybody rolling, the second half, when we made some changes, the intensity and the forward thinking and the attacking hit another speed and another level, no problem. But our defending and giving up chances is just ridiculous right now, and it's on me. We're going to change it.
All right, there's a little bit of Greg Vanney talking about what happens there, during that thing. Now there's an interesting part to this as well, because it can't all be defensive, right? I told you the expected goals were 1, and it probably came off of maybe 1 or 2 chances, one with Cabral, and it's funny because Greg Vanney talked about Cabral not playing well in this. We can play you the audio again. We can talk about just the verticality, and Greg's like, he says you can say what you want about Kevin, but at least he's running vertical runs. At least he's trying to open up those seams, and he does things. But when he gets there, he loses the ball. Greg said, he lost too many challenges. his shot, the one that everybody wants to talk about, is that left-footed shot when Nick DePuy played him over the top into space, in behind San Jose, which was there all night. And this was one of the few balls that actually found its way there. His left-footed shot is just sort of, I don't know, he rolled over on it. I don't know that, I feel pretty confident that I could kick the ball just like that if I tried as well. And I think you're seeing, the major issues with him. And I think Greg knows what the issues are, right? So this is not saying that that he's surprised. He sees Kevin Cabral. He sees what he is. And he talks about, just being stronger on the ball. He talks about positioning. He talks about where he puts the ball. He talks about fighting through challenges, being more physical. All these things are things that are going to come in time, because Kevin Cabral is not in the physical state that he needs to be a super game changer in Major League Soccer. But it's one of the reasons that they invested in him, is they think that they can make him into that player. And when he becomes that player, the Galaxy have something to gain from that. Or he doesn't, right? And everything kind of goes sideways with it too. That's always a possibility. So Cabral had a horrible game. Absolutely. I will say this. He was isolated, and he was isolated a lot. Whenever I look at the passing chart, he's not finding, connections with somebody like Sebastian Lletget. He's not finding connections with Joveljic. He's on a little island all by himself. And so I think Greg is at the point now where he is ready to motivate, right? So you can look at Cabral, you can look at some of these guys, but he was very clearly, hey, we're cheating. We're cheating on offense, and we can't. So I think you're going to find a very defensive-minded, defense-first team that comes out of this. And he talks about the 3 weeks. Again, we talked about it with Kevin and the 3 weeks that you sort of need here. But that wasn't good enough. There was no reason for that to even be a game for the LA Galaxy. They should have had all of the advantage, right? Again, they're at home. They're playing, they won their first game on Minnesota. When you win your first game in Minnesota, you think 9-point week. This is the week the Galaxy make their move. Then they lose to Colorado. Then they lose to San Jose. Neither of those performances were good enough. Not even close. San Jose came in physical, right? Physical, ready for a challenge. Where was the edge for the LA Galaxy? Outside of, and I will certainly agree with this, Cabral was getting beat up on early in that game, and Armando Villarreal, the referee, did absolutely nothing about it. I think that took Cabral out of his game. Now, he needs to be mentally tougher. But Villarreal needs to do more for that as well. He got undercut 2 or 3 times before there was even a yellow card in that game, and he was not calling fouls that were clear fouls. The initial 45 minutes from the referee was not good enough to establish 2 chippy teams that were sort of going after it, and you could just see it escalating more and more and more and more. And so that's on the referee for some of that. But at the same time, Kevin Cabral got to be mentally tougher than that. 100%. Raveloson was meh in the middle. Lletget was kind of non-existent. Sasha Kljestan didn't have a lot of impact. Name a guy in this starting lineup who did anything. Nothing changed until Victor Vasquez came in, until Efrain Alvarez was off there, until Grandsir came in. Who else came in? So it was Grandsir, Victor Vasquez, Jonathan Dos Santos came in. In the 60th minute, then things started to change, right? And you could see the creativity. You could see more of the stuff. It's becoming very clear the LA Galaxy don't have a playmaker, and that playmaker that they rely on is Victor Vasquez, right? And so the more that he is rested, the more problems, the Galaxy have. I think that whenever you're looking at how the LA Galaxy do right now, it's not about Jonathan Dos Santos, who I think might even be writing himself off for the LA Galaxy. There's decisions to make on his contract right now, and whatever he's doing is certainly not proving that he wants to stay, or that he's even capable of staying. Let's say it's a physical thing. You saw him limping around, that type of thing. By the way, that's going to be common now. We've been telling you ever since he started that he's getting cramps, that he gets cramps in almost every single game. And so when you see him and it looks like he holds a hamstring or something like that, that's probably a cramp now instead of just, a hamstring injury. So him hobbling around is going to be normal, which means physically he's not going to be able to perform as much as you want Jonathan Dos Santos to perform. But those 3 subs at least changed something, right? It got some guys out of positions, and I think it was very telling that one of the first guys that went away was Nick DePuy. I have seen Greg Vanney be exasperated on the sideline, but not as much as with Nick DePuy in this last game. He was throwing up his hands. And so it's very clear to me that if you want to see, a starting lineup for the LA Galaxy that is going to be competitive, then Victor Vasquez needs to start. Now, he seems to be set up to be able to start on Saturday. And so if you're expecting him to start against LAFC, I think that's something that you should see. I think Grandsir is now set up to play on Saturday as well. I think Jonathan Dos Santos is ready to start on Saturday, and you have a full week. Greg Vanney should have his pick of people that he sort of wants to take from here on out. So, no, the San Jose game has no excuses. The LA Galaxy were in positions to take advantage of Colorado and San Jose and did neither. All right, so there's problems. Are there insurmountable problems? No, and it was funny. I told this story on Twitter, but I'll tell it here as well. I've known Taylor Twellman for a very long time. I've told you guys that on the podcast. And if you heard the good stories that I have with that on some of the other podcasts, I'm sure you could run through them and sort of see. But I was texting Taylor beforehand, and I'm saying, well, maybe I'll run into you. I don't know if they got you guys locked in a bubble or whatever, but if I run into you, I'll say hi. And so I went into the press box, and Taylor was sitting there with John Champion. I hadn't met John yet. And so I walked up and said what was up to TT, and John Champion was there. By the way, I mean, a little bit of a fangirl moment for me meeting John Champion, because he sounds exactly like he sounds, right? So it's just fun. I don't know. I'm constantly amazed at the people I get to meet and the positions that I get to be put in. But I was sitting there talking about the LA Galaxy as the quote-unquote LA Galaxy expert to Taylor Twellman and John Champion before the game. And so we were talking about it, and John Champion asked me, he goes, the goal differential tells me that the defense isn't that good. What do you think? And I stood in front of him and I said, I said it right to John Champion. I said, for me, they're not as bad as that goal differential. Can you imagine being the guy, me, who told Taylor Twellman and John Champion right before the game the Galaxy defense isn't as bad as their goal differential, and then watching that team come out and absolutely lay an egg on defense? You could say, I know people want to also criticize the offense. Go ahead, criticize the offense. Have fun. I'm less worried about the offense right now. I'm more worried about what the defense is, because they're not this bad, right? We've watched them. They're not this bad. I guarantee you they're not this bad. This goal differential, this 0 goal differential thing is driving me nuts, because I've been watching them saying there's no way. They're not this bad, because they have some good pieces. I think Derek Williams is a good piece. I think Julian Araujo is the best right back in Major League Soccer right now. I think Koulibaly, we're still out on him. I think Nico Hamalainen has been great and probably could be a starter for the LA Galaxy. I would love to know whether the Galaxy have a purchase option on him, because right now I'm like, young kid, 6 foot, sign him up, make him the left back of the future for the LA Galaxy. But he's on loan from QPR. So I look at this defense and say it's better than what they're showing, and then you have Nick DePuy come out there and. In my mind, in no way, in no fashion, is Dan Steres worse than Nick DePuy, and that's just being honest with what I've seen over the years. So not having the option of Steres on there is super interesting. And again, I'll tell you 100%, he's healthy. This is a coach's decision. So whatever happened, however it happened, that's the position we're in right now. Like Augie Williams, and I don't even know if we even talked about Augie Williams because we've been so busy with news and games and everything else, but Augie Williams was loaned down to San Diego Loyal for the rest of the USL season. Everybody knew Augie was in trouble, right? Greg Vanney told everybody Augie was in trouble. Now Augie's down with San Diego. What's going on with Dan Steres? Well, right now, Greg Vanney is shouting it. He's not saying it, but he's shouting that Dan Steres is in trouble, that he's not doing what he wants him to do, that he's not seeing the improvement, the effort, or anything else that's out there. That's what Greg Vanney is saying whenever he's not even putting Dan Steres there. And then you go in here and you start Nick DePuy. All right. And that was a problem in this game. Absolutely 100% a problem. And you could see Vanney was frustrated with the whole time. Made the change in the 60th minute. I always think Greg makes his changes a little bit later than everybody wants, because he's kind of like Phil Jackson, where he wants them to play it out, right? Play through it, figure it out. You guys need to be smarter. It's not always about pointing things out to you. You have to know what you're trying to do. And I think the LA Galaxy are a little naive in that right now. Victor Vasquez, again, comes on, things change. The Galaxy did press there. That second goal, though, totally lucky. But Koulibaly can't get beat on the line there. 100% can't get beat on the line. So, for me, I think somebody read my game recap and they said, well, it was pretty harsh on Koulibaly. Well, I could make an argument that he's at fault for 2 goals. And San Jose scored 2 goals. People don't want to give him the fault because he tracked a runner inside. Well, at some point you track a runner, and at some point you track the ball. When the ball gets crossed in and you see your guy going forward and you realize that ball isn't going to get him and it's going behind you, then somebody has to do that. But I'll also say Efrain Alvarez probably should try to play defense every once in a while. That might help as well. So, I mean, that's what I see from the San Jose game. I feel like Greg Vanney is going to put a big, I feel like he's going to put a big emphasis on what you can do on defensively for this next 3 weeks, right? Watch how the Galaxy play against LAFC. I think they're going to be very connected type blocks. All right, you're on the road, you're in hostile territory, you're playing LAFC, you're playing a team that, quite honestly, in LAFC is just in a death spiral right now. You have a chance to knock them out. If you can't read that as the LA Galaxy, if you can't get up for that game, we talked about spending sort of your emotional currency on a San Jose game. Well, good news. The LA Galaxy spent 0 emotional currency against the San Jose Earthquakes because apparently they forgot that was supposed to be a rivalry game. All right? They're not supposed to listen to me. All right? I said I don't think that the LA Galaxy think this is a rivalry. I don't think that it's a rivalry anymore. I completely discounted it. Guess what? I'm not a player. All right? Those guys should have known that was a rivalry. And you can say, oh, there's new players. Guess what? Sasha Kljestan is on this team. He knows it's a rivalry. Sebastian Lletget is on this team. He knows it's a rivalry. Talk about the guys who have been here before. They knew this was a rivalry game. All right? Some moron podcaster doesn't get to decide whether something is a rivalry. Just like Bob Bradley doesn't get to decide whether or not it's El Trafico. All right? You have no control over that stuff. All right? I just want to get to that. That's the deal, is the LA Galaxy absolutely did not show up, did not spend any emotional currency. They did not try to match the intensity that San Jose had. Bottom line. That's it. They did not, when the bell rang, they did not meet it. All right. And that's the stuff that Greg Vanney will not tolerate. And you heard him getting ticked, which, by the way, is a lot of fun. It's fun to hear a coach, and fun is like it's fun because it's different, right? A lot of times Greg Vanney is a very measured guy. He's not measured here. He's angry. He's still able to articulate everything, by the way. And I just think that's so interesting. I mean, most of the time Greg Vanney will talk for 4 or 5 minutes at a time. He is angry, so he's only talking at like 1 or 2 minutes. That's how it goes. I will tell you right now that LAFC is ripe for the picking. We were going to talk about it on Thursday night. We'll get you ready for that game on Thursday night, but they're ripe for the picking now. If you're the LA Galaxy, you smell blood in the water, you want to go after them. That being said, getting a point there is still a good point. All right, getting points on the road is still a good point, but eventually you're going to have to try to make up some of these points you dropped. Bottom line, make up some points you dropped. If we go over some of the stats as we move away from the San Jose game here a little bit, I just wanted to point it out. This is a big deal, and this continues to be a big deal, so pay attention to it as it goes down. When you look at the percentage of minutes played by the LA Galaxy's designated players, these are the highest paid players on these teams. Right now, the LA Galaxy are hovering at 56.8% of the total available minutes have the designated players played. Kevin Cabral has the most at 84.6%, but Chicharito, 45.8%. Jonathan Dos Santos, 45.1%. All right, there's not enough. And the LA Galaxy are missing Chicharito, no doubt about it. All right, they need that game changer in there. Okay, they need that game changer. And he's not there. He needs to be back on this field. That's why getting him back for Saturday would be huge. Yes, you put in a guy for 10 minutes at the end of the game. Abso-freaking-lutely. You would put Chicharito in for the last 10 minutes of an El Trafico. If you're losing or if you're tied, even if you're winning, you put him in for the last 10 minutes. How would you not do that? You need to start getting him spun up. So MLS's decision is ludicrous. By the way, I still don't know if that's going to be the final decision, but I mean, that's what they're going to say. So, I mean, whatever is what it is. When you look at the LA Galaxy, the percentage of the time they get points, right? We talk about wins, losses, and point percentages. So whenever I say when you get a point or better, right? So a win or a draw is what we're measuring there, right? So the LA Galaxy have won 52.4% of their games. They've lost 38.1% of the games, and they've gotten a point or better 62% of the time, basically. That needs to be higher, all right? The point or better needs to be higher. When you play bad, you want to get a point. When you play well, you get wins. When you play bad, you don't get losses, you get a point. Galaxy need to be better at that. That's what you're expecting down the stretch. And certainly that's what you're looking at coming up in September when the LA Galaxy have 5 games and 4 of those games are on the road. Okay, a midweek game, I think, is in Houston. A midweek game. You get one midweek home game. Woohoo! That's something to watch. This is going to get worse for the LA Galaxy. We talked about 2019 being that maybe this team is going to mirror that 2019 team. We're starting to see that. Okay. Remember that 2019 team barely made the playoffs, ended up winning a game against Minnesota, went to the next one, lost to LAFC. All right. This is what this team is shaping up to be right now. They're sitting a little higher up in the table, which may look good for them. And the fact that nobody is sort of catching them right now is a good thing as well. But just be really careful with this. When we look at home points right now, the LA Galaxy have 22 home points for 1.83 points per game. Their average is higher than that, though. Over the entire life of the LA Galaxy, their average points per game at home is closer to 2. It's 1.89, and right now they're at 1.83. It needs to be better, and certainly 2 back-to-back home losses, back-to-back losses for the first time in a game, all right, is not something you want to see. Away points, 13 points so far on the road. They had 8 points total in 2020. They had 17 points total in 2019. The LA Galaxy should get more than 17 points on the road. I think they're a better team this year. And if you look at the average, 1.44 points per game on the road right now is higher than their average, which is 1.2. And in 2019, they averaged 1 point per game on the road. They need to keep this in the 1.4 to 1.5 range, win games on the road. That is super important. We've seen some regression here as we look at all the LA Galaxy teams across 21 games and where the Galaxy sit. At one point, we were saying this is the 3rd best start for the LA Galaxy in team history, the 4th best start. Well, we're sort of starting to tread into the middle now. 2019 had 2 more points, better than the LA Galaxy through 21 games. Just again, keep in mind 2019. Okay. 35 points right now for the LA Galaxy, 37 in 2019, 36 in 2016. If you want to look, 34 points, though, in 2014. Not saying the LA Galaxy can't go on a run. All right. 2012, they only had 27 points through 21 games. Again, not saying you can't go for a run. 2011, which was one of the best years for the LA Galaxy, 39 points through 21. Not too far off the pace. So as much as we panic, we have to look at the history. We have to look where it is. The problem is you're not trending up. You're trending down right now. The LA Galaxy need to be trending up. 1.67 points per game is their average right now. 1.52 across all LA Galaxy seasons is the average. Just LA Galaxy goals scored. This is interesting. Okay, here we go. There's progress. We can say that there is progress. Are you ready to make progress? Here we go. Through 21 games, the LA Galaxy have scored 32 goals, conceded 32 goals. If we project that over 34 games, right around 52 goals each, right? Score 52 goals, give up 52 goals. If we compare that to other seasons, we will see that the LA Galaxy from just the year over year, basically defensively, if I told you the LA Galaxy were a better defensive team than they were in 2020 by a long shot, I don't know if you would believe me or not, but you should. Because if we project the 22 games that the LA Galaxy played, if we projected that into a 34-game season, which is the standard sort of season right now, the LA Galaxy would have conceded 71 goals. The LA Galaxy right now are on pace to give up about 52 goals. So we'll say 51. So that's 20 goals better than they are in 2020. But if we go to 2019, we can see they're actually fairly similar again. LA Galaxy were projected to score, and they did score 58 goals in 2019. LA Galaxy on pace to score 52 goals right now. Defensive goals in terms of how many they gave up in 2019 was 59. The LA Galaxy are on pace to give up 51. The defense is even better right now, as long as they continue on this pace, than what it was in 2019. But it's hard to separate those, right? But there is progress, so don't freak out. There is some progress. I don't want to act like it's all doom and gloom all the time. It's not. If you look at August and how many points per game the team has sort of gone through here, right now averaging 0.71 points per game in the month of August. Not great, but with a win against LAFC, that could really do good for the LA Galaxy whenever you look at 3 wins, 2 losses, 1 draw, and a very busy month. I think you'll take that if you're the Galaxy. So a win would look really good hanging there. A point isn't horrible. A win is better. And so that's something that you want to, again, keep an eye on. If we look at table position, the LA Galaxy have just dropped down from 3rd place for the first time since basically week 7, week 8, somewhere in there. They're now in 4th place. So 4th place in the Western Conference, 5th place overall in the Supporters' Shield. And as we look, the LA Galaxy's longest single season losing streaks per year. So we say what was the longest losing streak in each of these years, right? Well, in 2020, there was a 6-game losing streak. In 2019, there was a 4-game losing streak. Right now, the LA Galaxy have just matched their longest, which is the 2-game losing streak. This is the longest they've done that. That that can indicate some things. I don't know that we're seeing much indication of that. If we go into the longest winning streak, though, it's also 2. The Galaxy have won back to games a couple times. But in 2019, they also went on a 5-game winning streak. Where's one of those? Where's one of those swings for the LA Galaxy as they continue out? So, that's sort of where we sit with this team right now. A lot to prove. I think anybody who says that they should be worried about the offense more than the defense hasn't been watching this team. I'd be happy with the 0-0 draw in some of these games if the defense could start standing on its own 2 feet. Greg Vanney saying this defense cheats, I think was probably, and he's using that word, as most provocatively as he can, right? He's saying this defense cheats. You can't cheat on offense. He talked about the analytic of starting the attacks deeper into the field than anybody else. By the way, which should have LA Galaxy fans. Again, I pulled it out and I already said it, but if you're not paying attention, the fact that Greg Vanney just quoted an analytics should make you excited, because that means this isn't a coach that is stuck in MLS 1.0. This is a guy who is able to go through things and pay attention to things and is looking at all ways to make his team better. I think if you would bet against Greg Vanney sort of turning this defense around in 3 weeks, I mean, I'm not taking the bet. I'm putting my money on Greg Vanney right now. I question whether or not he needed to sit Williams. That's my one question about this, because I think if he does that the defense with Koulibaly back there is on a lot better ground. But again, not there. Don't know if Williams has some sort of injury that you're worried about. I didn't like that rotation. Listen, I think Efrain Alvarez was one of the better offensive players on the night, and I also think that he missed several chances to pull people into the game and make some passes. I know he missed Joveljic on the sharp corner shot that he had. That was one of the LA Galaxy shots on goal. Great shot, good. It's just super low percentage. If he cuts that to Joveljic, and if you see this after Efra hits it and it goes out for a corner, Joveljic sort of has his hands in the air, like, if you just cut it back, I'm like right here. Joveljic during the game, I thought was not involved in the game very much. And then going back and watching the highlights, he's involved in a lot more than I thought he was. I don't know what that means to me. I feel like if I don't see it during the game, then it's more isolated events than anything else. But that's a guy who has to sort of start, melting into this LA Galaxy team, so melding into them. He has to combine with this team. He has to figure out where his spot is and where he plays. And with Chicharito, unknown. We don't know where Chicharito is. We don't know if he would have been ready for Saturday. And right now, they're even saying he's ruled out for Saturday. Again, just hold your breath on that. All right. It would boggle my mind if MLS actually goes through that. MLS All-Star Game is coming up on Wednesday if you want to watch it. That's on Wednesday, August 25th. It's a 6:30 p.m. kickoff time. It's obviously the MLS All-Stars versus the Liga MX All-Stars being played at Bank of California Stadium. FS1 and Univision is where you can find that particular game. And so that's what we got. All right. I like Feel the Berm. They can't see Dejon's runs. I will tell you right now, they miss Cabral's runs as well. And Cabral and Dejon, and Greg Vanney has commented on this. He says that they're not finding them all the time. There has to be more vertical. And quite honestly, Sebastian Lletget has to be more vertical. I'm not one of these people who's like, he only passes sideways and backwards. He can find his moments, but I need to see more of that. And they need to find Cabral and Dejon in behind people because you're not seeing that. I think that's one of the most important. You want to get the offense going, that'll get the offense going. All right. Find those vertical runs a little bit more. Find in behind, play in behind. Greg Vanney talked against Colorado as we were comfortable playing in front of them when we should have been trying to press to get in behind them. I felt the same with San Jose. San Jose played well. They were up for it. They knew what they wanted to do. That's a team, again, I think is a little more mature than the LA Galaxy, but certainly has had its ups and downs, its trials and tribulations. So you get that. The LA Galaxy already beat San Jose twice this year, I think. Is that correct? I think so. So this was the third game. So if you look at that overall, if you win 2 out of every, 3, that's pretty good. It just doesn't always guarantee you that playoff game at home. LA Galaxy, I don't know. I'm sure I could poll the chat room here, but I'm sure you want an actual home playoff game. Wouldn't that be fun? Playoffs, home? I still feel like this LA Galaxy, I am not as big of like the sky is falling as some people. This team can play well. You even saw it against San Jose. This team can play well. Maybe they have a problem of trying to pass the ball into the back of the net sometimes. Maybe they have a problem of moving sideways more than vertical in those final moments, and I'd like to see some more vertical passes. Cabral has to work on his finishing, bottom line. Greg Vanney will sit him. absolutely 100% will sit him. It's just, I don't know that we're at that point yet, right? This is when you need him. This is when you need his confidence ready to go. So you better be building him up, and he better be learning. And if you're Cabral, you're tired, all those things that you didn't expect, you're in a new place, all that takes up, your mental capacity, and that's mentally draining. All of these things, learning a new language, being in a new place, learning a new team, all these things take up all of that mental time and space, and he's got to figure out a way to fight through it. Luckily, he's young. He's 22. He should be able to fight through that. LA Galaxy coming up against LAFC on Saturday, August 28th. That game is on Fox, as we said, over the air on Fox. You'll also be able to find the audio on lagalaxy.com. Game at Bank of California Stadium. I will wonderfully be watching that game at home. Can't wait. I'll be turning on the TV, be covering it the best way we can. We will have a live show coming up on Thursday for you as well. All right. That's where we're going. That's where we're at. This is a week of no games, and if you close your eyes for the All-Star game, it's like almost nobody played. And by the way, I should mention, Julian Araujo will play in the All-Star game. So if you're going to watch the All-Star game, you need to just be on your hands and knees and praying to whatever deity that you like that he doesn't get injured. If you're a Galaxy fan, that's what you want. That's the only thing you want. All right. I mean, if he has a really good game, then it only speeds up his departure from the Galaxy as well. So hopefully he has a very anonymous game for a lot of. No, I think if you're a Julian Araujo fan, you wish that he goes out there and just balls it up against the Liga MX. And by the way, this is going to be a chippy game. Somebody's going to get hurt on one side or the other. These guys aren't going to play like soft. That ain't happening. Not going to happen. Never seen one of those that does that. So that's where we sit. All right. Like I said, we will have a live show coming up on Thursday. I think Erica will be in. If not, we'll find somebody else for that as well. But we'll get you ready to go for the El Trafico on Saturday. And sort of we can do the post-mortem on what happened at the All-Star game. And hopefully we'll have a definitive 100%, although Kevin's reporting is perfectly trustworthy. I know who he talked to. I know where that came from. So MLS is saying that's the rule and that's what they're going with. Super fun. Super fun. Can't wait for them to be like, oh, the ratings are down in El Trafico. Yeah, gee, I wonder why, guys. Yeah, sometimes the stupid rules end up being stupid. So you did it to punish Zlatan, and now you get to punish yourself, I guess. It'll only cost you like $20 million, however much that is, whenever you look at the ratings that will take a hit on this. But we'll see. Maybe Chicharito won't even be ready. There is a LA Galaxy conference call coming up on Thursday with Greg Vanney and selected players. I don't know that we know the players that will talk yet, but we'll know that probably on Wednesday whenever that goes out. So that way we can be ready on Thursday for it. So we'll get an update on all of the injuries and what Greg Vanney has in mind for LAFC coming up on Saturday. All right. Kevin was great calling in on the phone, so we thank him for doing that. And other than that, I think it's probably time that we get on out of here. So if you're looking for Mr. Kevin Baxter on Twitter, it's at KBaxter11. Head on over to LATimes.com, where he does all of his wonderful writing covering the LA Galaxy and all teams in Southern California, even some Angel City news. Kristen Press coming home. Welcome home, Kristen Press. I'm actually excited. I'll probably go out to a game. Kristen Press is one of my favorites. Always has been. So she's coming to Angel City. He has coverage on that. So head on over, LATimes.com. All right. If you're looking for me on Twitter, it's at JGuesman, JGUESMAN, and of course at Galaxy Podcasts. Head on over to cornerofthegalaxy.com, where you can find all of our videos, podcasts, articles, all that fun stuff. Fun stuff from Larry as well. We got you covered. All right. For Mr. Kevin, the Panda Baxter, I'm Josh Pato Guesman. You've been listening. You've been watching to Corner of the Galaxy from the box on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast, and be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening, and we ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo. And on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.